we're going to kind of, again, move from sort of the hardest of the hardcore and talk about sort of new players, because we get a lot of feedback from IGN Arena viewers. If you want to send us mail, you can do so at arenapodcast@ign.com. But we hear a lot from newcomers who are learning about MOBAs, who are just getting into it, who want to learn more about it, how to play, how they should play, that type of thing. And we really love hearing your feedback like that, because it lets us know that you guys are listening and starting to get into this sort of phenomenon that's happening. So that's really exciting.
Which makes me happy. More people that play MOBAs are just
totally agree.
Always a good thing.
Totally. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now, is learning new heroes and sort of helping your friends get into this genre. So Mitch, why don't you take this topic away, because you and Brian have a longer feature coming out about this week.
Yeah, we have another edition of our long-form letter series feature, Courier's Corner, with amazing art by Katie Casarda. But Brian and I talked about learning new heroes, and basically when I started playing, I stuck to one or two heroes. Leah taught me to play with Lich, and then taught me to play with Sven, and I kind of stuck with them for a really long time, mixing it up with like one or two characters who were sort of similar or safe picks, and not really branching out. Recently, I've just started hitting the random button when I jump into games, especially pub games where it's like, I don't have anything totally committed to this. Or if I'm playing with my team, I just let them know, hey, I'm going to random, please build around that. And I'll hit the random button, and you get that extra gold when you random a hero. And you get...
League doesn't have that feature.
Really?
Unless I'm ignorant to it, they do not have a random, anything.
Maybe that's because they rotate heroes out so much.
Yeah, it could be.
Whereas
Dota has instant
It's just everybody is there, yeah. So you hit random and it just picks somebody, and you get like a little bit of extra gold when you
a few hundred.
go to the game. It's like 200 or 300.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's basically like an extra item, which is awesome.
You mean in-game you start off with the extra gold?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Sorry, I'm pretty ignorant to Dota, so maybe I should put more time into it.
That works perfectly with what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, so when you jump into Dota, like that's a thing you don't know. You jump in, you don't really know like what hero to play. So if you random, I mean, as somebody who's new, you're gonna play whoever anyway, right?
Yeah.
So you might as well random, try to get that extra gold. And that's been the only way I've learned to play new heroes, is basically force feeding it to myself, because otherwise I'm just gonna stay safe and pick the safe characters, because it's kind of overwhelming to have 100 choices and not know where to go. And people could say like, oh, we need this, can you play this character? It's a little, I don't know, it's hard and scary to play a new character when you have an important role to play. But it's a little less scary when you just random it and you're like, all right, I guess we're doing this. So for me, that's been what I've been doing. And I talked to Brian about like the best way to learn new characters. So I don't know, like I want to know everyone's advice. Like when you're trying to learn somebody new, what is your process?
I usually, for me, when I'm trying to learn new characters or just learn a new game, I try to just play as many different characters as possible. I always feel like in competitive games like this, it's probably stemmed from my WoW Arena days.
Sure.
To better know your enemy, you got to know how they work, how you play them. So I try to just go through, and then remember which character I performed best with or enjoyed playing the most, or maybe they had some sort of gimmick that was really awesome. That's how I stumbled on my favorite League character, like Ziggs. I really liked his long-range game, and then his zoning game, and then the fact that he had the little satchel charge that'll blow everyone away.
Yeah.
And that's how I fell in love with that character, and it was just trial and error. Which one do I like? Which one do I not like? And then you find your niche, I think.
What about you, Brian?
I actually prefer to take the one character and just play it over and over.
You just decide, like, I guess you're the one. I like the look of Tidehunter. I will play him 45 times in a row.
For me, it's sort of like pretty much everything in Dota is a variable. Like everything changes except for like the rules and the map, pretty much.
Yeah.
So like
Or
the fewer,
any MOBA. Really.
Sure.
That's true of League.
But like the fewer things that are changing, the more I'll pick. Like if I'm the same character every time, I'll learn like, okay, these characters who have like blinks can close the gap on me and it ruins my day. Or like, this person who has like crazy like harass in lane ruins my day. And like, I just want to learn everything about one character first and then relate new characters that I play to that first character. That's how I do things. Or did do things.
You learn one specific tool set and then you see how that works against everyone else, and that works as well.
Right.
And you kind of learn the hard way a lot of the time when you do it like that, because you learn, like, oh man, I didn't know that anti-mage had a blink out of the gate and can close the gap and chop me to pieces, and I can't do anything about it. So you got to figure out, if you're going to keep playing that character, how to counter that, or who you need to lane with, or when to call for the gank.
Right. So a good example for me recently is in Dota, of course, surprise. I was playing a character called Shadow Fiend, and I played him once when I started. So I basically pretty much have not played this guy.
Yeah, it didn't count.
And then I came back a few days ago and played him. And he's like really strong early, has crazy burst damage, but like can't escape anything. He's really slow and kind of squishy.
It's because he spends too much of his time just with that swagger walk.
He's so good. But I don't know. I did a few really good games with him, and then I played a game with a bunch of people who had like stuns and like a Tiny who was really fast because he had like a teammate who boosted his speed, and it ruined me. And like now I know that. So that's what I prefer.
Back to League, for me, I was playing Ziggs. That was my favorite. It's like the first character I really was like, oh man, he's so much fun to play. And then I got introduced to like characters like Kassadin or Akali who just close those gaps and just blow you up before you even know what's happened. And that was the hard route I took to learning Ziggs. And then I figured out maybe I should try different mid characters and rotate that way.
Strangely, maybe it's just because when I play League, I play ARAM.
Oh,
but that's how I mean, it's, obviously all random.
Yeah.
So, like, I just kind of find a character and, like, play with their skills, and, like, the stakes seem really low in ARAM.
Yeah, that's a really good way to learn, too.
Fun. I like ARAM as well.
Yeah, you're just kind of, it's just a waves on both sides smashing into each other with no real investment because you're not worried about, like, oh, I'm disappointed because you two were supposed to be taking the top lane and we lost that tower. It's just like, no, everyone's just running mid, using all their abilities.
A character who, like, you would like charge up this little tornado and you could like hit it and let it go.
Yasuo.
I really like that character.
He's really fun. He's super overpowered. He's like one of the most recent he's like 3 new champions ago. So I think his design is awesome. ARAM I really like because it feels like team fight training. You're just like, okay, cool. That's all you worry about. Stick to the
really
tower
good point.
or dive. Yeah, and I think it's fantastic because you won't often get those people like, oh, all I play is Riven. I'm going to just take Riven and just wreck you guys because you guys are playing characters you don't know. So I'm a big fan of ARAM.
Very interesting.
What about you, Leah?
For me, I know that we've talked about this kind of should you play multiple heroes or not, or play the same hero in the past. I think another way to look at it is what type of role you want to play on the team rather than this character looks cool, I'm going to try him, or rather than doing the random button all the time. I feel like you have to kind of consider what type of player you are. Do you normally like to play supports? Do you like to play as tanks? Do you like to play as damage dealers? And then you can kind of narrow it down to the characters who are good at the roles that you want to do. And then you can decide if you want to mass games or if you want to random games as those types of characters. I think that might be one way to sort of take an extra step back and look at it to sort of help you decide which characters you want to play. If you go the ARAM route, it's a totally awesome way to go because you get to try lots of characters and, do that sort of way, and it's fast, and I like that. But I think that you definitely need, if you're going to play like a classic, the lane game, if you will, you should just sort of determine what character style you like.
Yeah.
To that point too, I mean, if you're in a lane and you play carry all the time, you like to play one specific character. Like when I was playing Sven a lot, the reason I switched to learning someone like Witch Doctor is because I would play with a really good Witch Doctor, and then I wanted to learn to do that. So I switched out. Like I don't want to carry anymore. I want to do what he did, or I want to do what he did better because he was failing this way. So if you play a certain role a lot, you start learning what the expectations are for your supports, and you know exactly what you need to do to get there. Granted, you might not know the item builds and stuff, but that comes with time.
Another thing on that note is that if you have like one friend who you can teach how to play the character that you're learning, you will learn more about that character because
based on their questions.
Exactly, they will ask you tons of questions. They won't understand what's going on, and as you teach them, you'll learn more. You'll be able, to tell them exactly how to do things, and then it'll click in your mind like, oh, I'm doing this thing that someone else probably told me to do because of this. And I think that is really like a helpful way to teach people, or for people to learn, is to actually try to teach someone else.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
that kind of touched base on what I mentioned earlier about learning your enemies, and then it also the same way, like, that's how I learned Ziggs, back to Ziggs. Like, I was playing a game, I was playing Brand, mid lane, and I fought a Ziggs, and he just spent all game whooping me, just
I hate playing versus Brand mid.
Yeah. And then I just like, oh, wow, I fed him. So let me give that guy a try and see if it's because I was bad at him or he's just a really good champ. And that's how it went for me and got into Ziggs.
Interesting.